So, I am back again this week to talk about episodes 7 and 8 of Velma. Now, there will be spoilers, but I don't think anyone gives a damn about spoilers for this show. I'm kind of burned out, honestly, with Velma. I literally watched these 2 episodes to make this video, and as soon as I finished the episodes, I couldn't remember a single damn thing that I had just watched. Like, there was one scene in particular I was trying to remember because I wanted to talk about it in this video, and I couldn't remember which of the 2 episodes it was in, what characters were in the scene, timestamp. I just remembered vaguely the dialogue in the scene, and that was it. I couldn't remember anything else. I had to ask one of my friends about it, and they were able to tell me what scene and what episode it was in, and I was just like, geez, Aloo, how could I forget that quickly? Like, immediately after I finished the episode, I was just sitting there like, wait a second, what did I just watch? And it's only like 50 minutes worth of television. That's really, really bad. So, Episode 7 of Velma involves a fog festival. The entire episode is one big joke about how men have it easier than women. So far, to the fact that in the episode, through stupid reasons, everyone in Crystal Cove believes it's a ghost now instead of a serial killer murdering people. So they want to have this fog festival. They get rid of the curfew that was implemented in previous episodes, and the only stipulation is that women, since they're the victims of the serial killer, have to go to the fog festival with a man as a date in order to have protection. And it's like, okay, I get what you're trying to do here, but like, it's not funny. Like, they do like crude humor, like guys do disgusting things that are praised for it, and like Velma's life becomes easier because she has to disguise herself as a man to get into the fog festival since she doesn't have a date. And like, she does all of the things that were quote unquote disgusting that she was doing throughout the rest of the series, and everyone's praising her for it now and listening to what she has to say because she's a man. And it's just like, this isn't funny. Like, you could tell a funny joke with the idea and concept that men have it easier than women. I'm not saying that you can't, but the way this show does it is, again, it does the same kind of humor that's done in the previous episodes, where it just does this really ham-fisted and blatant, obvious way of being like, hey, this is the thing we're talking about and poking fun at, but like, there's no punchline here. Like, there's literally a nut tap joke. Real talk, no one does that. Like, don't get me wrong, it's something that's happened, and like, it's a thing that's happened in pop culture where like dudes nut tap each other, but like, me and my friends were hanging out, none of us just like go like, it was like, oh, gotcha, bro. Like, no, we don't do that. I don't, like, I just, I had hope for the show. I did. I had hope for the show that it would subvert my expectations the first 2 episodes. And now I'm at episode 7, and I just... okay. So, Velma sneaks into the Fog Festival as a man. Daphne's attracted to Velma, and so are all the other girls, which defeats the purpose, because later on in the episode, Velma and Daphne, Velma is Manny at this point, have like an intimate connection, and it's like Daphne's attracted to Manny, but she doesn't know it's Velma, and like, this is supposed to be like oh, Daphne loves Velma, she just doesn't know that Manny is Velma. But like, this doesn't work because like every girl in Crystal Cove is attracted to Velma dressed as a guy, so like the intimacy of Daphne being attracted to Velma dressed as a dude doesn't work here, because if no one else showed attraction to Manny, that's what Velma calls herself, then Daphne being attracted would be like, oh, it's because Daphne likes Velma and she just doesn't realize it, so she, like, her brain is just like associating the two, and that's why she's attracted to them. But like, you know, that obviously doesn't happen. The reason why Velma's at the Fog Festival in the first place is because she hacks into the serial killer's phone, which, like, no, I'm jumping ahead. That's episode 8. I forgot. There was just a stupid... I can't even talk about the show straight because it's just so bad. It's just so bad. Like, I can't even critically construct it. Like, it's just bad. I'm really trying hard to just, like, talk about it in a cohesive manner, but, like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I can't do it, and I just, Okay, let's refocus and let's try and do. Okay, so point is, episode 7, there's a fog festival. The serial killer is at the fog festival. Velma finds it out from a stupid manner because her mom put invisible ink on the note that she left in the cave that was at the end of episode 6, and she read it in a stupid script her mom wrote that was like Jinky's the detective and the invisible ink mystery, which like, wow, so blatant, not funny. So she holds the letter above some flame and it reveals the number. She calls it, it's a serial killer. I'm fairly certain Velma's mom is going to be the killer. And, like, if it's not, I'll actually be happy because the show subverted my expectations. And I'll be content with the fact that it was able to do the bare minimum to make me be like, you know what, I'll give you credit where credit's due. Like, the brief moments of comedy in a show that's supposed to be a comedy, that isn't really credit because, like, having very small moments of comedy is not good in a show that's supposed to be funny all the time. But anyway, if that happens, I'll be great. That'd be great. I'll be happy about that. And I'll give the show genuine credit where credit is due. But anyway, so Velma finds that number. She's like, okay, now I need to go to a fog festival. So that's why she dresses up as a man. She calls herself Manny because, again, the show does not understand the concept of subtlety. She goes to the festival. Norville is there. Fred is there. Gigi's there. Daphne is there. Fred and Norville have a stupid side plot where the two of them are trying to become the Fog King, which is the equivalent of Prom King, but for this Fog Festival thing. Gigi is disillusioned because she doesn't care about it, and it's just like Norville like dealing with like his own insecurity issues, which like could have been interesting, but like that's not really the focal point of the episode. It's just kind of like a goofy side thing that happens. So whatever, I guess. Daphne is getting drunk because she was trying to talk to Velma the entire episode before the festival to vent about what happened with her family, and Velma just wouldn't give her the time of day, which led me to realize that the show has a huge complacency issue because this show constantly pretends that it's evolving everything, the characters are growing, but then like they find ways to set everything back to the status quo. So like in episode 7 alone, Fred became interested in Velma in a previous episode, but because of Fred's family, he now asks out Daphne, and they start going out to the Fog Festival together. Daphne and Velma were distant from each other at the beginning of the show, and now they rekindle their relationship, but in this episode, Velma is ignoring Daphne, so they're distant again from each other. And it's just like and then worst of all is that Velma's dad, finally came around to her and understood that she wasn't crazy anymore about her mom going missing. But now, instead of it being like, Velma, shut up, your mom didn't go missing, she just left us, it's switched to, Velma, shut up, there isn't a serial killer, it's a ghost. So, like, they just supplemented it with something else. So, like, the show constantly just wants to reset the status quo as if it's some sort of sitcom, but, like, it's not. So, I just don't know. Speeding up a bit, towards the end of the episode, Velma's still in her costume as Manny, and Daphne have a heart-to-heart, and, like, I'm supposed to care about this scene, but I don't, because Velma is still a terrible person. Like, they're talking, and Daphne is venting about how her parents were terrible, and they abandoned her, and Manny's just like, well, Velma's mom also went missing. And Daphne's like, yeah, but my parents were criminals that abandoned me. And like, I'm really going through it right now. And I just wanted to talk to a friend. And Velma as Manny is just like, well, I don't think your parents abandoning you is really as bad as my mom abandoning me, which like, and like she stops herself and she like mid through that and she's like, yeah, Velma does sound like a sucky person, even if what she's going through is worse than what you're going through. And it's just like, why am I supposed to like this person? What am I supposed to like about this person? Like, even when it's supposed to be an emotional moment where these characters are supposed to be bonding, there isn't anything there to make me like them as an individual. And it's just so stupid. Another thing, this series is horrible with its comedy. I know I mentioned that briefly earlier, but like, there's something specific in episode 7 that was really stupid to me. It's just that when they talk about the Fog Festival, they mention that the fog is kind of supernatural, that weird things happen in it, like people switch places, they end up in different areas, clothes and items switch when the fog envelops. Like, it's weird and creepy, and no one understands why it does that. But then they have, like, the classic Scooby-Doo chase where, like, Norville and Fred are running around, they're going through doors and popping out different doors, and mid-run, they stop and they're like, holy god, these doors defy the laws of physics. I'm freaking out. And then they're like, oh no, it's just a theme park ride. And they're like, phew, I was going to freak out. But like you literally described earlier, like Norville literally describes in a conversation to Velma that the fog is supernatural. Yet doors that spit you out of a different door is where you draw the line. Not a fog that can teleport you somewhere differently. Because I need to be clear about that. It's not that you walk and you can't see in the fog so you end up in the wrong spot. That's not the case. The fog literally envelops and causes things to disappear or switch places. So that's fine. That's fine. But a door that spits you out of a different door that's in the same room, that's the line that you cross and you're like, that's too far. Okay, Velma. Okay. So, getting to the end of the episode, the serial killer ends up chasing them, the whole mystery gang at this point, minus Scooby, because, Scooby doesn't exist. They play with the little thing that Gigi is going to be killed by the serial killer, but nothing ends up happening. It was just a red herring thing, so it's like, cool, I guess. So, the mystery gang gets chased. The serial killer is about to kill them, but then the fog envelops and causes them to disappear. And coincidentally and conveniently, the serial killer's phone gets switched with a crown that Fred was holding from the Fog King Festival. So now, Velma has the serial killer's phone, and she can learn information about who the serial killer is. Instead of, investigating it. Because she could have just investigated the whole, 20 minutes of this episode instead of all this random crap happening that ultimately doesn't matter. Episode 8. So, Episode 8, it's honestly just a cluster. It's just a cluster of nonsense. There's just nothing there. This episode is told in, erratic order because they are trying to have a joke about how flashbacks in shows can be really bad, but, the meta joke is that they're using the flashbacks in crappy ways to tell the story because flashbacks are utilized in bad ways in media. And, again, if it was well done, then I could understand it. But it's not. It just didn't land for me. They do it in such a ham-fisted way. This should have been a subtle thing. But the episode literally tells you the thesis of the joke. At the beginning of the episode, they have a conversation about how flashbacks are used in media, and that leads into them using flashbacks in different formats throughout the episode, and that's supposed to be the joke. It felt like they were trying to do that Rick and Morty episode where Rick and Morty were on a heist, and everything kept changing because, obviously the point of a heist movie is that the heist happens, already, and we're just hearing about it, and everything's changing, and they're I knew that and whatever. That was a good episode because it was able to play with that very well, and it was very comedic. But this, it's trying to do that, but bad, and it's just so. The entire mystery gang, including Gigi, she's here this time. They're trapped in a rock. Fred was kidnapped. Right, I forgot to mention that Fred got kidnapped at the end of episode 7. And was brought to the serial killer's lair. Not killed. Why was he kidnapped and not murdered on the spot? Because, everyone else was murdered on the spot and left, their bodies were left in the place that they were murdered, but Fred got kidnapped instead of being murdered because he's the main character, and he has plot armor, and he can't die, so, we can't kill him because, the plot needs to happen, and Fred needs to be there. He's a part of the mystery gang, so, we can't have Fred die. He can't die, but we need to build tension. So instead of having Gigi get kidnapped because she's an original character and it would have added stakes because you don't know if she's going to live or die, we're gonna have Fred get kidnapped, who has no stakes because he's the main character and he's got plot armor. You might as well call him freaking Kirito. And it's just, so he's trapped in a cave talking to the 3 girls that were murdered because their brains were dissected and they're inside of a jar, and they have like not robot voices, but like they're inside of a jar that like speaks, and like he just hangs out with them. He has sex with them. He has sex with the brains. Okay, I shouldn't say that. They say they hooked up, which could mean a variety of things. They could have just made out. They could have had sex. Because like I remember a part of Fred's character is that he's supposed to be prepubescent, but they don't really go into that much past the beginning. Like a lot of the things that were in the synopses for the characters end up not mattering. Like the whole thing that Norville doesn't do drugs. Like, okay, he doesn't, but like it doesn't really affect his character outside of the one joke that they had about it and it being like a clickbaity thing in the synopsis for his character. The same thing with Daphne. They established that Daphne is a drug dealer in her synopsis for her character during the marketing of the show, and like she's a drug dealer for 1 episode. And they established that Fred is prepubescent and has daddy issues, which like he still does have daddy issues, but like his dad isn't like that relevant to the show that much. Like, yeah, he has dad issues, but like Fred is a side character in this show. It's not important that he has dad issues. He's usually there for like a punchline of a joke. And like him being prepubescent was, again, the punchline of a joke in an earlier episode. Like, the whole thing is like, I remember in Daphne's synopsis, it also said that she had issues with the fact that her and Fred couldn't have sex, but like they're not dating for this entire show for the most part. So like, all of these things were there for what culminates in this episode. Because honestly, the plot of this episode doesn't matter. All the stuff in like the first half of this episode is completely pointless and useless. Everything that happens like the last like 5 minutes of this episode is the only thing that's really relevant. So like I'm gonna go there. So one of the passing lines of dialogue in this episode is that they say, I'll just put the clip because I don't remember it. Like I said, I could remember it. The episode's very forgetful.
You going from Daphne to Velma is worse than going from a beloved cartoon to a playful reimagining.
So that happens, and that just made me realize, alongside what I was just talking about with the advertisement, that they knew no one was going to like this show. Like, it's like they actively wanted to make something bad. And I hate saying that because I know how difficult it is to actually create content in general, but it really feels like everyone that worked on the show, except for the animators, because the animation is really good, they didn't want to make this show. And they actively worked to make it as bad as possible so they could like get fired or put on a different project after the first season was over. That's what it feels like. It feels like a bunch of people who were just like, oh my god, I don't want to make this show. Why am I doing this? You know what? I'm going to make it as bad as possible. Because like that joke in itself means you were self-aware that people weren't going to like this show. That you wrote it in while in production of the show. So like you knew this wasn't good. So you put this joke in there as like a self-aware joke, like, haha, yeah, we know we made the show terrible. Like, I have no energy to talk about this. Like, the first video I did for Velma, I was optimistic. I didn't really like the episodes. It was kind of found them bland. But at least I had a more upbeat vibe. In my second video, I was very angry because I didn't like anything that happened. In this, I'm just defeated at this point. I don't know what to do at this point. I'm just kind of out of it, man. Like, any semblance of soul I had and energy is just kind of gone at this point. But anyway, I gotta finish talking about this episode. We're almost there because I skipped a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter. So, the end of the episode, Velma ends up finding her mom. Her mom literally just appears out of nowhere, saves Velma's life, reveals that she has the mystery machine, which, like, if mystery machine is a drug in this universe, but, like, then the mystery machine is also a vehicle in this universe, like, how, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So, her mom has the mystery machine. It's not painted in the classic, green and orange and everything, because obviously they're not the mystery gang yet, so they don't have the mystery machine. It's just a vehicle that just randomly appears. I should mention all this stuff happens while they're in a cave. So, like, they're in a cave underneath Crystal Cove. So, like, Why she had a car down there, well, a van specifically, I have no idea. Why she just randomly appeared in the cave, I have no idea. So they escape driving the mystery machine, and then the episode ends with Velma's mom being taken to the hospital. Velma's like, wait a minute! You didn't tell me! Like, where have you been? Who kidnapped you? Who's the serial killer? And her mom's like, I don't know. I can't remember what happened, like why I was taken and stuff like that. And then it's like, that's the end of the episode, because, you know, there's 2 more episodes where they're going to reveal all of this that I'll talk about next week. But anyway, yeah, I'm just beaten down. I'm just beaten down. I have nothing of value to say anymore. I just... yeah, that's really it. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you happen to make it to the end, I greatly appreciate you actually making it to the end of the video. That's something I'm struggling with my content, is that get people getting through the entire duration of the video. Like, my average watch time is only like a couple of minutes, like varying from video to video. But nevertheless, I am grateful that you made it to the end of the video. If you could, you know, subscribe so you can see my future content, I would greatly appreciate that as well. And last but most certainly not least, have a great day. I'm the innocent villain. You're innocent until proven villainous. And let's finish Velma next week.